Welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today,
Today,
we're going to be looking into the world of plant music,
plant music.
or as a scientists call it, biodata sonification,
Biodata sonification.
which is essentially turning the electrical signals
Turning the electrical signals of plants
into something that we can hear
that we can hear and enjoy
as music.
as music.
Yeah.
So we've got a really interesting set of sources on this.
Oh, yeah?
We have some scientific papers that break down the how and the why.
Yeah.
Articles about the devices that make it all possible.
Yeah.
Websites from artists who are actually out there creating plant music.
Cool.
And even some philosophical musings on the whole concept.
Okay, so before we get into the, music part of all this,
Right.
what's actually going on inside plants
Yeah.
that allows this to even happen?
Sure.
I mean,
But we're not humming a tune in there.
They're not humming a tune, are they?
Not in the way we'd normally think of humming. But plants are actually buzzing with electrical activity.
Okay.
It's a part of their natural processes.
Okay.
A built-in communication system that helps them respond to their surroundings.
I see.
Regulate things like growth and even movement.
So, they have their own internal chatter going on.
Exactly. Scientists have identified three main types of electrical signals in plants.
Okay.
Action, Bayesian variation potential, and system potential.
Okay.
Each one relates to how plants respond to different stimuli
I see.
and coordinate their internal functions.
Okay.
For example, action potential is a rapid, short-lived signal
Okay.
that's triggered by things like touch or changes in light.
Okay.
Variation potential is a bit slower
Gotcha.
and can be related to things like temperature fluctuations or wounding.
Interesting.
And then system potential is a more gradual, long-lasting signal
Okay.
that's involved in processes like photosynthesis and water transport.
Wow, that's pretty amazing to think that all of this is
Yeah.
happening silently beneath the surface. Yeah, it's wild.
So how do we even go about capturing these electrical signals and turning them into something that we can hear?
Yeah, so the most common technique that's used by artists actually relies on something called galvanic skin response.
Wait, they're hooking plants up to lie detectors to make music?
Not quite lie detectors,
Okay.
but the principle is similar.
Okay.
It measures changes in electrical conductivity.
Okay.
You might have heard of this in the context of lie detector tests.
Oh, I see.
They use special electrodes, often a type called TNS cables, which are actually designed for medical use.
Okay.
These electrodes are attached to the plant's leaves,
Okay.
and they pick up on those subtle fluctuations in electrical conductivity.
So we're eavesdropping on their internal conversations.
They are.
Okay, so then how do we get from the electrical signals to the music?
So that's where the technology gets really interesting.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of devices and approaches out there.
Each with its own unique way of translating those plant signals into sound.
Cool.
Some of the most popular ones we'll be looking at include the midisprout, the plant wave,
Okay.
and even a device called Music of the Plants
Okay.
by an Italian group called Demanhur.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So many options.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Sounds like there's something for everyone, from the tech savvy to the musically inclined.
Totally.
Let's start with the midisprout.
Sure.
What makes that one so special?
So the midisprout is considered the original plant music device.
Okay.
And it's been a favorite amongst artists and researchers for years.
Cool.
It's open source, meaning anyone can access the designs and the software.
Nice.
At its heart, it uses a 555 timer chip to detect those changes in electrical conductivity on the plant's leaves.
Right.
And then triggers corresponding MIDI notes.
So it's essentially giving the plant a way to play a musical instrument through MIDI.
You could say that.
Okay, cool.
Those MIDI notes can then be sent to a synthesizer, computer software, or any other device that understands MIDI,
Oh,
opening up a world of sonic possibilities.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay, what about the plant wave?
right. So the plant wave,
How does it differ?
it's like the sleek commercial version of the midisprout.
Okay.
It's designed for ease of use
Okay.
with an app that lets you listen to your plant's music right away.
Instant plant music gratification.
Instant gratification.
Okay.
It also comes with a variety of built-in synthesizer sounds and effects, so you don't need any additional equipment to start jamming with your plants.
I dig it. And then there's this Damon Hour device.
Yeah.
Music of the plants.
Music of the plants.
Sounds a bit mysterious.
It does have an air of intrigue around it. They
Yeah.
don't share their schematics publicly,
Interesting.
but we know it has its own built-in synthesizer and speaker.
Okay.
And from what we've gathered, it's particularly sensitive to the plant's signals,
Interesting.
only creating music when it senses a strong connection.
Okay, so it's more selective about when it decides to make music.
It is.
You mentioned DIY options as well.
Yeah.
Tell me more about those.
For those who like to tinker,
Yeah.
there are DIY MIDI sprout kits available.
Okay.
They're incredibly versatile because they use the Adafruit Featherboard, which is a modular platform.
Good.
You can swap out components for things like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
So you could potentially have a plant sending its music wirelessly to a speaker across the room.
Exactly.
That's wild. I remember we even tried our hand at building a simple amplifier.
We did.
To experiment with plant signals.
It was a fun experiment.
Yeah, it was.
But we quickly learned that building a clean signal path is essential for accurately capturing those subtle plant signals.
Right.
Noise can easily interfere.
Noise is the enemy.
Noise is the enemy.
Okay, so we've got all these fascinating devices.
We do.
For tapping into the electrical world of plants.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious to know what this plant music actually sounds like.
Yeah. What does it sound like?
Is there a particular style or genre that emerges from this process?
That's a question that's captivated researchers and artists alike.
Yeah.
The raw biodata itself often needs some shaping to become something we'd recognize as music.
So we're not just hitting play and hearing like a plant symphony?
Not quite.
Okay.
There's an art to interpreting and shaping that raw data into something musically meaningful.
So we're adding subtitles to the plant's electrical chatter.
We are.
All right, so what have we learned from studying and analyzing this plant data?
Yeah, so we've discovered some really interesting patterns.
Like what?
For example, when we compared data from a snake plant and a croton plant using the MIDI sprout, we found noticeable differences in the distribution of MIDI notes.
So like each plant species has its own distinct musical signature.
It seems that way.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
What could those differences tell us about how each plant functions?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
It suggests that different species might express themselves musically in unique ways.
Interesting.
Perhaps their internal rhythms, their responses to stimuli, or even their evolutionary history play a role in shaping these musical signatures.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating area ripe for further exploration.
Right.
And remember the Dahmen hour device?
Yeah, the mysterious.
A one shrouded in mystery?
Yeah.
Well, the data from that was particularly curious.
Oh, really?
It had this tendency to switch between narrow and wide pitch ranges. Creating an almost unexpected musical drama.
Almost like it was deliberately building tension and release.
Yeah, like it was like playing with dynamics.
What could be causing those shifts?
That's the intriguing part.
Right.
It could be a reflection of internal processes within the plant.
Okay.
Perhaps related to changes in water uptake, photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Or even responses to subtle environmental shifts that we might not even be aware of. More research is definitely needed to unlock the secrets behind these intriguing patterns.
It's so cool. Okay, before we move on,
you
mentioned another device earlier.
Yeah.
The Scion.
The Scion.
How did that one differ from the others?
The Scion.
Yeah.
That one's geared toward a slightly different audience. Those familiar with modular synthesizers.
Yeah.
Instead of MIDI, it outputs control voltage,
Right.
which offers a whole different set of creative possibilities for manipulating sound.
Okay.
We experimented with an aloe plant on the Scion, and the data was particularly striking.
What was it like?
It featured these dramatic variations in voltage, interspersed with these long stretches of silence.
Wow, so it's almost like the plant was dictating the dynamics and structure of the music.
Right.
These bursts of activity and moments of quiet contemplation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. What kind of sonic landscapes could you create with data like that?
Endless possibilities. It really highlights the point that there's no one-size-fits-all plant music sound.
Right.
It's a vast and diverse sonic landscape shaped by the plant device and ultimately the artist interpreting the data. Okay,
that's a perfect segue into our next topic.
Yeah.
The artistic process
Right.
of turning this data into actual music.
How do we get from data to art?
It's one thing to capture the plant signals.
Right.
But how do artists transform that raw information into something we can listen to and appreciate as a musical experience?
This is where human creativity really comes into play.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the data, listening to what it's trying to tell us, and then finding ways to make it musically meaningful.
Okay.
It's a beautiful blend of science and art
So it's not just a matter of pressing a button and letting the plant do all the work.
No.
There's actual artistry involved.
There is.
In shaping and crafting the music.
It's a collaborative process between the plant and the artist. Think of it like sculpting.
Okay.
But instead of clay, you're working with sound.
Okay.
Derived from a living organism's electrical signals.
That's wild.
Pretty wild, right?
Totally. So what are some of the techniques that artists are using to bring that plant data to life musically?
One common approach is quantization.
Quantization.
This involves taking that raw data and fitting it into a more structured musical framework.
Okay.
It might involve snapping the plant's notes to a specific scale or rhythm.
Okay.
Making it sound more melodic or rhythmic to our ears.
So it's like giving the plant data a musical makeover.
Exactly.
Helping it find its voice within a familiar musical structure.
Possibly.
But it goes beyond just tweaking the notes, right?
It does.
Artists are using plant data to control
all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Tempo changes different instruments or sounds, even complex effects. It can become this intricate dance between the plant's signals and the artist's creative choices.
So they're building entire compositions around these plant signals.
Yeah.
Not just playing the raw data straight.
It's a true collaboration.
Yeah, it's becoming a true collaboration between humans and plants.
Yeah.
We've got some incredible examples of artists doing just that.
We do.
Each with their own unique approach to plant music.
Yeah, let's hear about them.
Let's start with Augustin Ludar.
Okay.
What makes his approach so special?
Augustin is fascinating because he might be considered a purist.
A purist.
In the world of plant music.
Okay.
He's all about minimizing human intervention.
Interesting.
And letting the plants speak for themselves.
I like it.
He creates these immersive soundscapes in rainforests.
Okay.
Using plant data to trigger and manipulate natural sounds from the environment.
So he's acting as a sort of translator for the forest.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
Allowing us to hear its hidden symphony through the lens of plant music.
Giving a voice to the voiceless.
Exactly.
Okay, let's switch gears to the Data Garden Quartet.
All right, the Data Garden Quartet.
They have a completely different vibe, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Data Garden Quartet takes a much more playful approach.
Okay.
They create a sort of bioband.
A bioband.
By assigning different instruments to each plant.
Okay.
Their music often features bright layered melodies, sometimes diatonic, sometimes pentatonic, all interwoven with ambient textures.
So each plant gets to be a member of the band.
They do.
Expressing its individuality through its assigned instrument.
Exactly.
That's fun. And then we have Mamoru Fujita.
Right. Mamoru Fujita.
Who brings a completely different perspective
yes.
to the table.
Mamoru Fujita is a Japanese composer who dives deep into the musical structure of the plant data.
Okay.
He's not just listening for melodies. He's analyzing the data, extracting patterns and phrases, and then weaving those into his own intricate compositions.
Okay.
His work often draws inspiration from traditional Japanese and Indonesian musical traditions, creating this beautiful fusion of ancient and cutting edge.
So he's taking those hidden melodies within the plant world and translating them into his own musical language.
Into his own musical language.
That's incredible. It seems like these artists are really pushing the boundaries.
They are.
Of what's possible with plant music.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, what kind of music would you create if you were a plant music artist?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think I'd be drawn to the ambient side of things.
Okay.
Perhaps incorporating field recordings and soundscapes to create these expansive meditative pieces.
Okay.
But who knows? Maybe a touch of Fujita's intricate compositional style might sneak in there.
Yeah, for sure. What about you? What kind of plant music world
what would you create? Yeah.
Ooh, tough choice.
So many options.
Yeah, part of me loves the idea of like a plant-powered synth pop band.
Oh, yeah.
Give each plant a different synth program, some killer beats, and let the botanical grooves flow.
Let it flow.
But I also appreciate the minimalist beauty of Ludar's work.
Yeah.
Letting the plants guide the music in their own time.
That's beautiful.
You know, it's interesting how plant music seems to gravitate towards specific genres.
It does.
Like ambient and post-minimalism.
Right.
Have you noticed that?
I have. Why do you think that is?
Why do you think that is?
Is there something about the nature of the plant data
that
lends itself to those styles?
Yeah. Is there something about like the slowness
Yeah, I think there's definitely a connection there.
Okay.
Think about the inherent qualities of plant data.
Yeah.
Slow changes, repetition, cyclical patterns.
Yeah.
These are all elements that are central to ambient and post-minimalism.
It's like the music mirrors the slow, steady rhythm of plant life itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about finding that sonic connection between the natural world and those genres that embrace those same qualities.
I dig it.
It's a reminder that music doesn't always have to be loud and fast-paced to be captivating.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most profound beauty lies in the subtle and the slow.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so we've talked about the science, the tech, and the art of plant music.
We have.
But there's another layer to this conversation that we need to address.
Right.
The philosophical implications of all this
The philosophy.
are pretty mind-blowing,
Absolutely.
wouldn't you say?
Making music with plants raises some profound questions.
It does.
Does it deepen our connection with nature?
Yeah.
Or is it just another form of human-centric exploitation?
Right. Are we imposing our musical ideas on the plant world?
Right.
Or are we simply facilitating a form of expression that's already there?
It's fascinating to think about.
It is. And we have some thoughts from the philosopher Michael Marder,
Okay, Michael
whose work explores our relationship with the plant world.
Right.
What are some of the key takeaways?
The Marder's work is really thought-provoking.
Okay.
He encourages us to approach the plant world with a plant-like mindset,
A plant-like mindset.
which means challenging our human-centered view of the world.
Okay.
He wants us to see plants not as objects for our use,
Mm-hmm.
but as subjects with their own forms of being and intelligence.
Right.
It's a call for a more ethical and respectful engagement with the natural world.
It makes you wonder if our current approach to plant music
Right.
is truly in line with that kind of thinking.
Is it ethical?
Yeah. Yeah. Are we genuinely listening to the plants?
Yeah.
Or are we just imposing our own musical desires on them?
That's the heart of the matter.
Right.
It's a question that deserves careful consideration.
Yeah.
It's not about finding a simple answer,
Right.
but about engaging in a deeper reflection
Yeah.
on our role in the larger ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
and how we can ensure that our creative endeavors are respectful and reciprocal.
I think that's a great place to leave it. It really makes you think,
It does.
if plants could choose
Yeah.
what kind of music they'd make,
Right.
or if they'd even want music at all.
Would they want to make music? Would they prefer silence?
Maybe they'd just prefer silence.
It's a question we can't definitively answer,
Right.
but simply asking it
Yeah,
can lead us to a more thoughtful and ethical relationship with plants.
I agree.
It reminds us that they have their own ways of being
Mm-hmm.
and communicating that we might not fully grasp.
So maybe it's not just about the sounds we're creating,
Right.
but also about listening more deeply
Yeah.
to what the plants are already expressing,
To what they're already saying.
even if it's not
Yeah.
in a language we immediately understand.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We need to approach this with humility,
Okay.
recognizing that the plant world has so much to teach us if
Yeah.
we're willing to listen.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface
Just scratch the surface
of this fascinating world.
of this world.
What are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Yeah. What should they know?
Who might be inspired to explore plant music further?
I hope they come away with a sense of wonder. Okay.
About the hidden world of plants and their incredible capabilities.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll start listening to their own house plants in a new way.
Right.
Or even check out some of the artists and devices we've discussed.
Yeah, we'll have links to all that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And beyond the music itself.
Yeah.
I hope this sparks some deeper reflection
Mm-hmm.
about our relationship with nature
Yeah,
and how we can approach it with more sensitivity and respect.
for sure.
This deep dive is really just the beginning.
It is.
There's so much more to explore.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
The most important takeaway is to stay curious.
Stay curious.
Keep listening, keep learning,
Yeah.
and remain open
Keep those ears open.
to the incredible connections between the human and natural worlds.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up another deep dive.
Another one down.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic.
We will.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Until then, keep those ears open and those minds curious. And maybe give your houseplants a little extra attention.
Oh, yeah.
You never know what they might be trying to tell you.
Until next time, folks.